Welcome back, everyone. I'm excited to share with you my recipe for artisan sourdough loaf today. To begin, we'll start with our wet ingredients bowl. So to the bowl, we're going to add 547 grams of water, The next ingredient we're going to add to our bowl is going to be 180 grams of active fed sourdough starter. Active starter that is ready to use will float on water, just a little extra hint there. So the next thing we want to do is stir our water and our sourdough starter together really well. I really love this Danish dough whisk. If you get a chance to get one, it's well worth it. It really does work. So we're back. We're going to get our dry ingredients bowl ready now. Now we tend to like a flour that has a blend of flours. It gives a richer flavor to the bread. So we're going to have 3 different flours in this mix today. The first one is 45 grams of whole wheat flour. The next one is going to be 114 grams of organic stone ground flour. In our case today, we're using red fife flour, but you could use whatever you have on hand, whether it be Spelt, Icorn, or your favorite. And then finally, the third flour we're going to be adding today, 601 grams of unbleached all-purpose flour or bread flour if you have it. So with all the flours in the bowl, now it's time to blend it together. So with my gloved hands, I am just going to combine the flours together before we put them into the wet ingredients. Now a bit more about that. You're going to notice today that I am putting starter and water and flours together. Most recipes will call for an autolyse, whereby you just add the flour and waters together. I've tried both ways, and I do find this way a lot better. Some people call it fermentolyse. Basically, it's getting the flour, waters, and starter going before you add any salt. So that's what we're going to do now. So we're just going to go ahead and get these dry ingredients put into the wet ingredients bowl now. Slow but sure. Here we go. There you go. And so continuing on, I'm just going to mix all the flours together now with the water until there's no dry bits remaining. So I don't usually make you guys watch all the mixing and getting the dough to come together, but today I decided a little bit of extra detail may help. And also, just to mention, with the gloves, they are food safe gloves, and I do wear them if I'm going to share the bread. I'm not in this case, but that is one thing that I try to do if I'm going to be like sharing it with people outside the family. All right, we're almost there. So yeah, I just go around the sides of the bowl, and the sticky dough will actually pick up a lot of the dry bits off the side if you do that. And the gloves just let you get right in there, and you don't have to worry about your hands getting stuck together with the wet dough. So it is a little help when it comes to the mixing part, is what I find. You don't need it for all parts of the mix, but in this situation, you can see it really helps. Okay, almost there. Really hope this is helping you guys. So you'll notice here that I'm still have some dry bits, so that's why I'm wetting my gloves. Just making sure I get all the rest of those dry bits taken care of. You don't want to leave a dried clump of dough in your mix. It is not pleasant and it will not go away. So that's why I'm getting in there with the wet gloves. So just a final point here about the dough and the mixing. You can see that the dough is super moist and wet looking, which with sourdough is perfectly normal. But if you're new to sourdough, you might not know that and think you have to add more flour. Please don't do that. It's going to work out. The stretch and folds that you're going to be doing over the next few hours are going to help. So now we're going to put the dough to rest covered and we'll be back in 1 hour. So we're back. It's been 1 hour and it's time to add the salt to our dough. We're going to be adding 17 grams of salt. And then we're going to be wetting our hands and dimpling the dough to get the salt to be incorporated into it. This may take a few minutes. I'm doing this part with very clean hands, without the gloves, simply because you have to be able to feel the granules of salt. And the only way to know if they're all completely dissolved is to get in there with your hands and touch the dough. So with that said, I shall continue on with this. So a little bit of dimpling, and then I'm going to wet my hands again. After a few minutes, I'll get in there and do what's called the pincher method. You will see that in a few seconds. There we go. So this is a pincher method. I've learned this by watching other YouTubers, and it really does work. And you'll be able to tell when the salt is gone because you won't feel any granules anymore. Just putting my hand under the dough like a scoop. Just making sure I get all the salt to absorb into the dough. All right. You'll be able to feel when the salt granules dissolve, and then you're good to let it rest again. So we're back. It's been 60 minutes since our dough has been resting. And we're going to do our stretch and folds now. We're going to start with something called a coil fold. It's what I learned with. It's a little bit easier. You can master this first and then you can move on to a little bit more challenging. So for now, I've wet my hands. I'm going to get my fingers underneath the dough, release it from the bowl, pull it up, tuck it under itself, flip it around, and do the same thing. You're going to want to do this every 30 minutes for about 3 to 4 more times. So our dough has gone through all the stretch and folds. I've done 4 for the day. So we're going to be making 3 loaves out of this dough today. So I'm just going to wet my hands and we're going to get this dough out of the bowl, get our roll onto the scale, tear it out, and get the weight of the dough. All right, let's do this. Gently, of course. There we go. Okay, so it's $14.98. We're dividing it by 3. It's about $4.99 each loaf. So now we're back. I've divided the dough into 499 grams each. So we're just going to do a pre-shape rounding, tucking the dough in on itself, using the scraper for any of the sticky areas, and then flipping over. Just going to round it. I'll be covering it with a damp flour sack tea towel, letting it rest for 15 minutes, and then I'll be back to do the final shaping. So we're back, and it's been 15 minutes. We're going to do our final shaping now on our dough. We're going to turn it over. We're going to turn it in on itself as usual, round it up with our scraper, and get it into the bantam baskets. I'm just going to carry on with this. I'm going to cover them, let them rest for 2 hours, and I'll be back. So our dough has rested for 2 hours on the counter. We're going to put it in the fridge overnight, and we'll see you in the morning. Hi, so it's the next morning. I've just gotten our dough out of the refrigerator. Just going to get them ready now to flip over and get them scored so we can bake them. So we're going to flip our dough over onto a piece of parchment now so we can score the loaf before we bake it. Here we go. And flip gently. And if you gently pull out the bend, then it should let go because of the rice flour. Give it a little rub to get the extra rice flour off of it. And score it. Okay. So we're just going to score a second loaf so that I can show you. Same design, just want to make sure you have lots of examples here. Our loaves are done. They baked in a 549-degree oven, in a Dutch oven with the lid on for 15 minutes. Then the oven temperature was dropped back to 468, and I baked them for another 12 minutes. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know if you give it a try.